Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another whiskey review. And today's show is going to be all about Green River. Here on the channel, we've always been a big fan of Green River, culminating in our own single barrel that came out a few months ago. But Green River had a cool limited edition that just came out this summer, commemorating the 250th anniversary of the US Army. They created their own special batch with a whole lot of details in here. So we're going to get into what makes this bourbon unique and do a review of it on the first half of today's video. But then in the second half, I am curious how the 250th anniversary edition compares to the foolproof. Curious about this release and the comparison? Then stick around. Thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. We don't just review whiskeys here at Hello Again Whiskey Friends. We also collaborate with our friends all around the country to find the best barrels we can for this community. If you're curious what we're coming up with next, be sure to join our Patreon or our private Facebook group. Links in the description. All right, so I'm going to get this sample poured here before we get into the details, give this a little chance to air out. Now, not only am I going to pour this sample here, but I am pouring it in a very special glass, gifted to us by a great friend of the channel, Doug. He created these U.S. Army glasses in honor of his father, who was a World War II veteran. So I couldn't think of a more appropriate video to use this Glen. So thank you, Doug. And with that, a special thank you to all the veterans out there and all the people currently serving. Thank you for your service and giving so much to our country. Cheers. All right, so getting into this 250th limited edition here. Lots of interesting details are actually going into this one. It's not written on the back, so you got to look up some of this online. But what I found is that this is a small batch blend of barrels aging for 4 to 7 years. But what caught my eye the most was the mash bill. Really used to Green River either being a 21% rye mash bill or a 16% rye mash bill. But this one is actually said to be 77% corn, 14% rye, and 9% malted barley. The other interesting detail on this bottle is the proof. Now, if you look at the proof there, it's that very exact 111.1 proof. At first glance, I thought that was a very interesting detail. Like, how did they come to that proof? Only to find out that they did it on purpose, because that is the date of Veterans Day, November 11th. Though I must admit, I'm always kind of skeptical when people use the proof as a gimmick, because then it does make me wonder if that was the proof point where the whiskey tasted the best, or did we just commit to some type of gimmick using the numbers? So we're going to quickly break this one down and go through the review and the score. But after that, I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to do a comparison between the 250th anniversary edition and the Green River Foolproof. So let's get into the review first. Cheers, everybody. Let's get into the nose, then we'll get into the palate and into the finish. Oh, and before we get into the nose, I forgot to mention the price. I think MSRP is supposed to be $49.99, just like the Foolproof. But I did get my hands on this for $43 in Northern Kentucky. So look out for some deals there too. Now on the nose has got some surprising elements to it. Initially I got a whole lot of black pepper and toffee, which aren't notes that I believe I've given to with Green River before. The dark cherries there, but overall the whole profile is very baking spice forward. Enjoyable nose, but not one that you would sit there and explore. All right, let's get into the taste. Initially got hit with a lot of creamy custard and then a little bit of a spice, but that spice really built up on subsequent sips. Kind of confused that it's only 14% rye on how spicy this thing is. Get a little bit of a hint of that dark cherry. And then on the transition to mid-palate, it's a lot sweeter than I expected. Blast of caramel and brown sugar. Especially. That cherry gets a little more pronounced, but then right next to it is also this cola note as well. As we get into the finish, the spice returns, so it balances with that sweetness. The spice is almost specifically like a white pepper. There's also a bit of a fruit that emerges. It's actually not the cherry. It was actually more orange leaning. It does a little bit of a dance with expected flavors, vanilla, caramel, but then on the very tail end, The oak shows up, it's a little drying, and it comes across more with a nuttiness that I'm used to on Green River as well. So, all in all, an enjoyable experience. Let's see how these scores netted out. So, here on the channel, we do have a robust scoring system. There's 10 metrics behind the scenes, but they can be summarized as a flavor score, an experience score, and a value score. Aggregate all of those scores together, and you can see how this whiskey compares to other whiskeys that we've reviewed. And this one came in at a solid 80, which is actually higher than I remember reviewing the foolproof. Comparatively, for other things that are on the shelf, the old Grandad 7-year does stick out, scored a few points higher than this. But those are two whiskeys that I would kind of put in this lineup, both of which I'd probably buy over the Wild Turkey 8. So all in all, not something I would say is definitely a must-have, but at the same time, some of the proceeds of the sale from this whiskey goes towards improving the lives of some veterans. So there is some other benefits to supporting this particular release. And in the end, you're not going to be disappointed, especially spending between $40 and $50. It is just a crushable bottle, and it fits well within the overall Green River profile. So I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to reset, and then we're going to compare to the foolproof to see if there are any thoughts and if you should buy one over the other. So stick around. You might hear about drifting drams from our barrel picks, but not only do they know whiskey, they know coffee even better. Katie and Ethan are always bringing in the best coffee they can for this community. And if you enjoy coffee or you are curious about getting into good coffee, you need to check out Drifting Drams. Fancy coffee for regular people. So check out their website to support a small business that is passionate about what they produce. And they will forever change the way that you look at coffee. All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's get into this head-to-head comparison. So what we're going to do here is pour a little bit of the Green River that we just went through, and we are going to compare it to the Green River Foolproof. Now, with the Foolproof, this is the 117 proof Foolproof. I've recently seen people post pictures of a 118 proof Foolproof, but I haven't gotten my hands on that batch yet, though I would have loved to do a triple threat on this particular comparison. So on the bottom of each glass, I put one of these stickers, one with an F and one with a star to represent the 250th anniversary edition. I'm now going to spin these glasses round and round we go. I actually saw my friend Chris over there at Bourbon of the Week. He had this really cool blind drum that he could just like put a lid on it and hit a switch and it would like rotate for him. He's also got black Glens that he does that with. Actually quite curious about that thing. I might have to invest in one of those. But we have randomized that there. I am going to mark the first glass here with an A, and the second glass I'll mark with a B. I'll do a quick comparison here, but as I go through these two, you'll see a graphic here up in the top corner. That way I can tell you which one I'm talking about, whether it's glass A or glass B, to hopefully help you follow along. We'll go through any distinct differences there as we work our way through the nose and the palate, and then I'll tell you which one I enjoy better. All right. We're going to start out with Glass A on the nose. Cheers, everybody. Now, I just went through the review about 15 minutes ago. I know I edited it down, so it's less time in your world. But on the nose on this one, it feels more cherry leaning than what I recall from the review that I just did. Less spicy, and there's a little bit of a sweet peach ring as well. All right. Let's get into the nose of Glass B. Glass B comes across darker with a little bit more of a dark cherry. None of that brighter peach going on. And in general, it's more baking spice forward. I'll be honest, off the nose, I'm actually not sure which one is the 250th, which is great for this blind comparison. Now let's get into the taste. Starting with sample A. Cheers, everybody. Yeah, on Glass A, playing off what I said on the nose, much more fruit forward than expected. A whole lot of cherry and a whole lot of peach. Sweeter than I expected too, but there's also this darker brown sugar and just a little bit of that like white pepper spice too that I was talking about. So the fact that I'm still getting that white pepper spice makes me wonder if I still don't know which one's which. Like, I don't know if I'm actually drinking the 250. So this is a good blind still. Good blind still. I always like it when I'm confused about things. Now let's get into Glass B. Glass B has a darker profile to it. Definitely leans towards a toffee and baking spice, so maybe I am narrowing in now. There really isn't a peach presence. It is a dark cherry. When you get into the finish, that white pepper spice is still there, but there is a distinct orange peel on the finish of this one too. So I'm starting to get my leanings on which one I think is the 250 based off of the notes that I was getting before. The other thing that is noticeable about B. It feels more refined, which is another way of saying the proof might be a little lower on this one, but it could be the quality of the blend as well. But it does feel more balanced in general when you're going between the dark cherry, the toffee, cola notes, the white pepper. There just feels like more of a balance than A when it comes to the sweetness, the spice, and the oak influence, holding it all together. All right, I'm gonna do one more head-to-head sip before I choose a winner. Last sip of A. Yeah, A is brighter. I'd almost say that A is a younger whiskey on average. Like, it comes across as something that is strictly 5 years old. The oak profile is more of a cedar or a raw wood. There's a whole lot of cherry still and that peach ring, but it lacks a darker element that was on B. All right, last sip of B. Let's see. I think this is the winner, but let's confirm it with this sip. Yeah, B just has this more refined ride as you go through the different layers of sweetness, spice, and oak on this. And in general, it's just got a darker profile, either the dark cherry or just the oak in and of itself. It does have a little less of a overall flavor punch, maybe because it's lower proof. But then the flavors that do come through are more refined. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there. But if I had to pick only one of these to drink, I would go with Glass B. While I do enjoy the fruits that were on A, the overall profile of B is more balanced and is something that I could see myself sitting down with, especially even with a neat pour. A feels more like a mixer. All right, let's get in the reveal here. First, I'm going to pull up Glass A. Now, A is second place, and let's see what the sticker says on the screen here. All right, there we go onto the sticker. F is for foolproof. So this is the 117 proof foolproof, which does make our winner then the one with the star on the bottom. That is a pretty atrocious star, I must say, but that is a star. So on this head-to-head battle, the 250th wins, and at least at MSRP, they're the same price. So in general, I mean, I guess if you're going out there looking for a Green River Foolproof, but you see the 250th edition, my recommendation is to get the 250th edition. Not only do you get a little bit better of a whiskey, but some of those proceeds of that sale goes towards supporting veterans as well. So keep an eye out for this release. Based on everything that I read, it should be available in a lot of states around the country. And for me, it was just sitting there on the floor, even on sale at a Northern Kentucky store. Yeah, $43 was like a steal for this thing. I'm gonna have to compare it to that old Granddad 7-year at some point. Maybe do a blind flight of all of my favorite sub $50 bottles of the year. I'll have to remember that later. So thank you for joining today, Whiskey Friends. Let me know in the comments if you've had this 250th anniversary edition. What were your thoughts? What were the flavor notes you were getting? And just remember, while you can always find more whiskey, you can never have enough whiskey friends. So take care of those around you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching Hello Again, Whiskey Friends, everybody. A big shout out to our amazing Patreon community. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't continue to produce the content and barrel picks week after week. And for everybody else out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you know. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.